As a physiotherapist working in the NHS for over 2 years now, there are some things that I would say I love about it, and there are some things that I say I don't quite love about it. My name is Mariah, I'm a rotational physiotherapist, and here on my channel I post things physiotherapy, lifestyle and travel related. So if you're interested in that, subscribe, turn the notification bell to all, so you don't miss a video. In this video I want to give you 3 pros and 3 cons. So jumping right into it, one of my big pros of working in the NHS is obviously the NHS is a public health service. There's no obviously paying for treatment, which I find very rewarding to be able to support people in that manner, and it's nice to be a part of the service that provides that kind of care for people. I understand obviously the NHS has its issues, like many places have its issues, but the foundations of what the aim is to provide healthcare to all of those from different walks of life is admirable in my opinion. And yeah, like I said, it's nice to be a part of the puzzle. Another thing I would say that I really like a big other pro, similar to this, is the fact that by working in the NHS, I am exposed to different environments in terms of different specialities, different professions, and it gives me a very diverse experience to shape myself as a physiotherapist, especially being rotational. I rotate around all the different specialities, get a better understanding of certain things, whereas I feel like if I wasn't working in NHS, I'm not saying I couldn't get these experiences, but I probably wouldn't get the same extent of experiences I've received thus far working in a different setting, or if I had been static outside the NHS for like a clinic for instance, or even for a private hospital, because they wouldn't necessarily have all the specialities I've been exposed to and all the professions I've been exposed to, so I appreciate that about the NHS. NHS. And the last thing I would say I really like about the NHS is the job security. Understand me, I know it sounds a bit ironic, it's really hard obviously with the hiring freeze and everything to get into the NHS, but once you're in, you're like kind of in, and in my opinion, yeah, there's cuts and whatnot, but in many cases it's kind of hard. You have to do quite a bit for you to lose your job. Yeah, in my opinion. So I like feeling secure. I like knowing that, okay, yes, like I said, NHS has its problems, but the NHS has been around for years. It's something that's going to be around for years in some form of capacity, and I feel comfort. I get comfort in that, knowing that I have a job where I am needed. I have that level of security. You're not going to cut a physiotherapist out of the rehab process. You know what I mean? Like things like that is things that make me feel very happy to be a part of the NHS. But moving on to things I don't quite love about working for the NHS. A big one for me, I would say, is the fact that sometimes I feel like there's a blur in the lines between what we play a role in regards to discharge planning and borderline being social workers. Now, when I say this, like, I appreciate social workers for what they do and whatnot, but there are times where it feels like, yes, okay, we have the discussions about the equipment, and it's usually where the people that social concerns get raised to. It may be someone being like, I don't feel like I'm managing with my washing and dressing. That's a social concern. So we usually raise the flag if the patient or the next of kin doesn't come to us direct or come to someone directly. But either way, it tends to come through us. We tend to be the people who do the referral. Now, where it's a con and it bugs me is the fact that we do a referral, but then it feels like it's constantly people like, so what's happening? What's happening with this now? When are they going? When is this? I'm not the social worker. I did a referral. The social worker now takes it on. Speak to the social worker, but because the social worker is never present on the ward, or they don't document in their notes about what's happening, everyone's looking between myself and the discharge officer, and in many cases, I know a bit more than the discharge officer, which also, expanding on this, another thing that really bugs me about the same point, and when it comes to discharges, is if it's not getting looked at, if we're not getting looked at to that level, when we do a referral, I know things are changing where it's like trying to take the caseload off of us, where we raise the flag and we get the discharge officer to lead on sending the referral, and we just add our therapy report in. I appreciate it, but in my opinion, it doesn't work. I'd rather go back to doing it all. In my opinion, this is why I say, I know I'm complaining, I'm already complaining, being like, I do too much. But the reason I would rather just do the whole thing myself and just moan about it than have the discharge officer do it is because in many cases you could have written days of notes being like, this concern was raised, that was raised, this, that, and then you see the referral sent and it's like 2 lines, yeah, need social. I'm like, so why did I even have these discussions? You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit like, what? Only for what's going to happen if you send the referral with those 2 lines, and the moment the social worker comes on the ward, they come straight up to the therapist anyway, and they're like, what's happening? They never go straight to the notes. They come straight up to us. Okay, I don't want to say never actually, because some of them do go straight to the notes. They come straight up to the therapy team, and they're like, give me a handover about the patient. And I'm thinking, if I had written the referral myself, you wouldn't require a handover for me about the patient. Maybe an update, but you wouldn't require a full-on since day dot handover if more than 2 lines was added. Bugs me. Anyway, moving on to my next point when it comes to NHS. Obvious elephant in the room, pay. Really bugs me about working in the NHS. And don't get me wrong, I knew that the pay was going to be what the pay is when I went into the NHS, but it doesn't make it right. And I feel like compared to many professions, just generally, globally, whatever, healthcare workers don't get paid, in the UK, don't get paid what they deserve to get paid. So there will forever be strikes, and there will forever be complaints, because we don't get paid what we deserve to be paid. And I feel like there are many other professions out there who people are like, oh, why don't you just go for this because it's easier, or the money's right. Yeah, money's right and everything, but realistically, I understand we don't go into healthcare for money. But it doesn't mean that, the pay that we are receiving, it's okay for it to be similar to the pay that I was receiving in hospitality, doing way less. Like, you know what I mean? It's a bit ridiculous. And the moments where it really gets us is when you have these joke little pay rises that actually do nothing, and then it just pushes you into the next tax bracket, so in fact you're not making more money. Or you have the ones where it's like, you're speaking to your friends internationally and they're making way more money, and there's no blurred lines in what they do. They do strictly physio, none of this discharge planning, none of this, none of that. There's bap. And they're sitting on money in comparison to us over here. So I'd say that's really, really annoying, I'd say about that. But like, in terms of my last con, it's a bit hard to say, the last con, in terms of what it is in comparison to some other things. So like, I'm leaning to my biggest con, I've got 2 in my mind right now, but I'm only going to share one more. Another big con about working for the NHS is just like, you want to provide your patients with more time. And one big thing that people always complain about when they talk about physiotherapy, it tends to be in more of the outpatient capacity than the inpatient capacity. But we are experiencing pressures, not just like staffing or whatnot, but like the pressure to discharge, the pressure to cut down those waiting lists, the pressures for whatnot. I'm an inpatient physio myself. I've been purely inpatient at current, and for me it's stressful because there may be a patient where you feel like, okay, they may benefit from an extra day in the hospital, or usually more than an extra day, but that you feel like they could benefit from more of your time, more of your input, and your caseload hasn't allowed that, which is a whole different situation, but like, it is what it is. And you feel kind of like you haven't been able to do it all. Like, yes, you've done the important stuff of making sure they're going wherever they're going safely, you've given them the equipment they require, but sometimes you feel like, okay, yes, I'm gonna have to send you a referral for ongoing therapy, but I also know there's a waiting list. And I don't know when that ongoing therapy is gonna be able to see you. So it's very hard doing that, but then your hands are tied. You know? So what gets me is when I see on social media, people harp on about, NHS physios did nothing but give me this. And I'm like, do you not understand the pressures that we are under? Like, yes, we want to do more. Everybody wants to do more. No one wants to like just slap you on with a referral without giving you, you know, a little bit more. But like, hello, we're back into a corner here, and like, yes, it doesn't make things right, but like, hello, only a certain amount of resources here. So I'd say those are like things that I love and don't so much love about working for the NHS. But let me know down below if you guys have any things that you don't know so much love about working for the NHS or being on placements and things that you've noticed. And I'll catch you guys in another video. Bye guys!